Are you a GEPF member or pensioner? And have you heard about the AYO controversy and how that could be putting your hard-earned retirement savings at risk? Now, in 2017, the PIC invested 4.3 billion rands in AYO shares. And this was done on behalf of GEPF members like yourself. But at the time of this video, only 600 million has been recovered. As a GEPF member, you have the right to know how this massive loss could directly impact you and your financial future. In this video, I will discuss the potential consequences of negligence and possible corruption within the PIC, and more importantly, how that could affect both members and pensioners. I will also provide you with crucial information to help you make informed decisions to safeguard your retirement savings. Now, this is a must-watch video for every GEPF member and pensioner. The information presented in this video could be key to protecting your financial future, so make sure you watch it until the end. Now, don't miss out on this opportunity to gain valuable insights into the controversy between AYO and GEPF and its potential impact on your retirement savings. Now, let's get started straight away, having an understanding as to how all this works. The framework behind this is just knowing that GEPF is a defined benefit fund, right? It's a defined benefit fund. What this means is all the benefits are defined, and more importantly, they're calculated. And how are they defined or calculated? It's done by a series of formulas. Again, you'd know this if you have to go through your member guide, right? You'll have an understanding on the guide. It talks you through some of the formulas. Now, you don't have to go through the formulas. You don't have to understand them. And this video is not going to tell you the formulas in detail and how they're calculating it, right? This video is just designed to give you a basic understanding about the formulas and help just make sense of whatever's taking place. Now, the formulas generally take into account a number of factors, but the key things that I want to talk to you about today is the formula will naturally take into account your salary, so the income that you are earning, and the formula is also going to be taking into account the years of membership, right? So how long you've been a member inside of GEPF would be important. Now, behind the scenes, you got to bear in mind that the money is being invested, right? So there's two parts behind this. You'd notice that there's a pool of money here, which is all the contributions that you are making, right? So every member that's contributing here, this is money that's coming from a member. And then you also have money that is coming from the employer, right? Yeah. So that's the employer's contribution coming in. And then you've got the member's contribution. And then remember, it's PIC that has access to these funds, bulk of it, and they are running the investment, right? So they are taking this money and they're going to invest. Yeah. So this is what's happening behind the scenes. What you see when you look at your GEPF statement, it's just the result of formulas, right? Which means you don't really see the market risk. It's not like a normal investment. If you have a retirement annuity or some type of savings, you might notice this taking place, right? Where when the markets are performing well, your value is increasing. When the market's not performing well, it's decreasing. So you see that type of effect when it comes to an investment. But on GEPF side, if you have to request a statement, and you can test this out, you can get a statement as at the end of this month, you can get a statement as at next month and compare it, right? What you would notice in each of the statement is that your resignation value, see, your resignation value, it should be increasing. So you should be doing this because the longer you are there, what would happen is your salary would increase. The longer you are there, even if your salary is not increased, your years of membership is increasing, which means the higher your value, right? So you should see resignation value starting to increase. What happens then behind the scenes from an investment perspective, and how does this affect you in terms of your resignation value? Or if you're a pensioner, what would happen to you? Or again, if you're wanting to retire. Now notice again, when the investment's taking place here, it's still invested into the market and heavily dependent on how well that investment's performing, right? Because ultimately GEPF has to make sure the money that's sitting inside that pool is sufficient. So let's take you and every single GEPF member. If everyone had to resign, GEPF has to make sure that they've got enough money sitting in the kitty here to ensure that they can pay back all the money that they've listed in the formula, right? Now, here's the thing. What happens if the investment's not performing well? So the money hasn't been invested well, or there's some corruption or negligent investing, right? If the value within GEPF starts to decrease, the fund then has to look at ways in which they can protect themselves, right? So what can they do? I'll start to show you some of it now. They can naturally go and affect the resignation value, right? So they can adjust that, How do? They adjust the formula. They pull down the resignation value. If they pull down the resignation value, it means that they don't need so much inside the pool. It's therefore enough. If every member had to resign, they have enough in there, right? It sort of covers up the poor investing in a way, right? What would happen if you are a pensioner? Remember, as a pensioner, there's already some things that you're losing out on, which I'll show you just now. But in addition to that, they can influence the increase, right? Meaning they can choose to give you a lower increase. Now, let's go have a look at this. I first want to start to share with you in terms of a formula change, right? Because that has recently taken place, right? And it seems kind of weird that GEPF would change the formula, and they adjusted the formula for members wanting to resign, right? So it's almost like a deterrent to force you not to resign, to move you towards retiring. Double-edged sword, I'll talk you through why it's double-edged sword for now, right? But have a look at the impact. I'm going to show you one member statement, so then you can sort of have an idea of the ripple effect, right, that poor investing could have on it. Let's bear in mind, if we head over to the GEPF site, you'd see that on their site, it talks a lot about the performance, right? So it speaks a lot about money that's getting paid out. It speaks a lot about, here you can see 8.6% growth over a 10-year period. So if money is constantly growing, what would be the reason for them to adjust the formula? Right? Guess you're thinking. Now, you can have a look here again. When we get onto GEPF site, we are having a look at media, and under media, under publications, there's press releases. Two things that I'll bring to your attention. The first is in terms of the formula change, right? So notice here, just above the mark where GEPF says they continue to have positive growth, they've now reached 2.3 trillion. It's all good news, right? Just above that, they talk about GEPF then having to do a revised actuarial factors calculation. Now, I want to show you a statement just so that you can see the change. The notice was provided on the 26th of October. The change became effective on the 1st of November. Now let's go have a look at what happened with one member statement so that you can see, right? Keep in mind the dates, October, and then the change became effective from November. So what I did for this member is we got two statements. We got one in terms of the old rules, which is what I'm showing in front of you now. This is the old rules. Notice the date on the statement here is the 31st of October, just before the change could happen, right? Because the change took place on the 1st of November. This is when the statement was requested. Notice it's an estimate as at 31 December, right? So you'll see both statements are going in the same way. And they adjusted the formula, and the resignation value at this time, right, was sitting at 8.3 million at that time, again, before the formula. Now I want to show you post the formula, right? What happened after the formula? Same statement, same member. Notice what we've got here is the 15th of November. This is again after the formula change had transpired. I'm still working the same date, 31st of December 2023. It's now new rules. But when we go to have a look at the resignation value, the resignation value has changed. It went from a figure of 8.3 million down to 6.9 million. Now that's a huge loss for this member, right? And this is just one member. It's just one member. So if you had to multiply that by the number of members inside the pool, right? Can you see how the formula change could be a cover up in terms of poor investing, right? Because again, if there's not enough money sitting inside the pool, let's say due to corruption or poor investing, whatever it could be, but the kitty is not performing as well. One way that GEPF could come out of this is they force you to reduce, well, they just reduce the benefits, right? They run the formula change. Again, if they're having such significant amount on members, like this member's lost 1.3 million, you can imagine how much they can recoup and how quickly they can recoup that, right? Now, that's the one thing. The next thing is it's a push, right? It's a push. So if you're looking at your resignation value and you can see, hey, your resignation value has plummeted. You've lost now, in this case, for this member, there was a loss of 1.3 million, right? Now, again, it might push you to say, okay, next route is you should be aiming at retiring, right? Now, you want to analyze this carefully. Again, remember, it's all based on formulas. And part of the formulas is, in terms of the pool of money that you have sitting with GEPF, you might be under the impression that you're gaining access to a full 1/3 value. But it's not really a 1/3 value. Again, it's a calculated amount. Let's go have a look at this member statement so that you can start to see, right? Now, why am I doing this for you? Because I want you to see the double-edged sword, right? Yes, there might be a loss in terms of what happens for resignation, But I want you to see both parties are affected, right? Not only those members aiming to resign, but those members aiming to retire were always affected because they're not able to get the full 1/3 benefit. And I'll talk to you just now what happens in terms of legacy, why GEPF is only providing this for a 5-year period. So let's first have a look at this member's calculation. I'm going to show you based on the new rules, right? Based on new rules, we'll do the calculation together. So notice that the resignation value sits at 6.9 million. Now, just for the purpose of math, I'm going to leave it at a round figure of 6.9 million so that you can see. And now I'm working, what is 1/3 of 6.9 million? The formula is pretty easy. I'll do it for you so that you can follow along on the video. It's 6.9 million. I'm dividing by 3. So it means that if you are this member, you should be getting 2.3 million, right? That should be the lump sum that's coming out of this. But again, if we go and have a look at the GEPF statement, we see 6.9 million is the resignation value. 2.3 million is what should be paid out. But in actual fact, if this member had to retire, the member's getting 1.8 million. Now there's a shortfall, right? So I'll minus the 2 to see. So this member's only able to get 1,850,000, which means immediately day one that this member opts to retire, right? Not resign, the member opts to retire, 450,000 is sort of vanished into the formula, right? So immediately there's a loss. Can you see there's a way to recover this money? In addition to that, notice that GEPF basically guarantees this money over a 5-year period, right? So let's go analyze this. You can see the first step here, there's 450,000 Rand. That's a loss, right? That's sort of missing. In addition to that, the income that GEPF is providing, it's guaranteed, but guaranteed for 5 years, right? Why am I saying 5 years? Because what happens if you pass away? If you pass away within the 5-year period, you know that GEPF is guaranteeing that you're able to collect that for a minimum 5-year period, right? If you live longer, you're able to get it longer. But again, there's quite a number of members who passed away shortly after retiring. Maybe again, this is one of your concerns. But either which way, let's just say worst case scenario, we're running a 5-year period. I want to show you what's happened to the balance of the money, right? So this is 5 years. Now, 5 years is basically 60 months, right? So 12 months in a year times 5. Now, here's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the amount of money that would be paid out, right? So the total amount of money that you would receive if you are aiming to leave. Notice it would come in 2 benefits, right? One, you're going to get a lump sum, which I will call a gratuity, right? So you're getting a gratuity, and 2 is the monthly income. Now, follow along because this is going to be very shocking to see, again, how a large pool of money is not accounted for. So let's do the calculation together. Notice that the lump sum gratuity here sits at 1,850,000, right? I'm going to round the figure up. But in addition to that, there's a monthly income of 41,000. So here's what I'm doing with the calculation. I'm taking 41,000 as an income. So 41,800. I'm multiplying it by 12. So that's the income over a 12-month period. And I'm multiplying it by 5 because we want to see how much is the total, right? Remember, the income's only guaranteed for a 5-year period. That's 2.5 million. In addition to that, I'm adding the lump sum gratuity, 1,850,000 to this, right? Which means the total payout here, the total approximate payout, right? Because remember, I haven't taken into account increases, neither have I taken into account that GEPF is going to invest this money and they're going to get some growth behind it, right? But total payout is 4.3 million. But again, when we go back onto the statement, go and have a look at the resignation value. The resignation value sits at 6.9 million. So when we work the difference out between the two, 4.93 million is what's actually getting paid out, but I'm working out the difference. The resignation value will round it down to 6.9 million. There's a shortfall of 2.5 million, right? Again, this money is sort of gone. So let's assume you, a GEPF member, opts to retire. Again, if you were this GEPF member, you're sitting with 6.9 million inside of the pool, right? And you're aiming at retiring. You're earning a 1/3 value. You're not getting the full 1/3 value. You're getting a gratuity. So immediately you're losing out 450,000. In addition to that, you're collecting an income. Now, let's assume you pass away within the 5-year period. Whilst you have received the gratuity and the income, the total you received is 4.3 million. But the total that's sort of missing or lost, right? Because remember, your resignation value is set at 6.9 million. So the total that's missing is 2,542,000. This is money that's not accounted for, right? Now, analyze this. How long has it taken you to earn that income? So I know it seems like a double-edged sword right now, but this is one of the reasons why it's critically important for you to analyze carefully retiring and resigning before making a decision, right? Now, how has this affected people who are active pensioners? Again, if you have a look at how GEPF has structured the formula, we'll head on to the website so that we can understand this better. You notice that in the website, it refers to a 5.5% increase, right? So here's the notice, 14th. I'm going to zoom in so that you can see it, right? I want you to see that either which way, there's some elements to be mindful of, right? So 14th of March, 2023, you notice that GEPF is now increasing pensioners' income, and it's increasing it by 5.55%. Now, notice what they're going on further to say, right? They talk about the laws that GEPF has, and they don't necessarily have to increase it at inflation, right? So notice again, they're saying here, inflation is sitting, at that time was sitting at 7.4, but they really are entitled only to do 75% of CPI, right? Which means, again, they only had to do 5.55%. So it's not necessary that your money is going to keep pace with inflation. Now, again, if you had to analyze this, if you are a pensioner, notice what's happening all around you, right? You have utilities going up, fuel is going up, electricity is going up, just the cost of living is going up. Everything is increasing above inflation, but when it comes to your increase in your pay, it's actually now increasing below inflation. Right? So whilst you're earning an income, it's not able to buy the same amount of things because the value of the money has shifted. Now, this again is just an insight into the ripple effect that poor investing can have, right? It might be camouflaged on the surface, that there's no effect for members, but ultimately you've got to take into account that GEPF works according to formulas. You might not see it on the surface level. It might be shown, as we've seen on the website now, that everything's performing well and the fund value is growing. But that fund value growing doesn't necessarily mean that you're gaining a lion's share of whatever's inside of the kitty, right? There's a lot of factors behind this. The other major challenge behind the investing is we tend to only find out what happened when it's very late, right? So we tend to find out when 4.3 billion Rand got invested, 600 million got recovered. Now, there's a lot of money going missing and we're only finding out at the end stage. And this tends to happen repeatedly, right? Where large chunks of money gets invested, that investing continues for a long period, and at a later stage is when we get to find out, hey, the investment didn't do well. Which again, it begs the question, if an investment is not performing well, why not nip it in the bud as early as possible, right? Or why not do the proper sort of due diligence in the beginning? What's actually taking place behind the scenes? Because ultimately, this money should be for you. It should be for your family, right? Should be the members within GEPF that benefits from the lion's share of this. Now, if you found the video helpful, give me a thumbs up sign. Also, post your comments below, right? How much of this are you aware of? Is it helpful getting this type of insight so you understand the deeper workings behind the scenes, right? If you know of members who are not familiar with this knowledge and how the investment happens, I would encourage you to share the video along with them so that, again, they're able to make more informed decisions. I'll see you in the next video.